Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening, and welcome to the third edition of the Southcoast Job Show. And again, everyone tuning in from Greater New Bedford, the South Coast, and every region throughout New England and the United States of America and the world even. Welcome to the program. Again, for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, the purpose and the intent of the Southcoast Job Fair is to help connect you, the local job seeker who may be unemployed or underemployed, to individuals in our workforce system, our economic development professionals, people who are looking to hire, perhaps you even, and career counselors who can help offer you advice to better your career as you look to take that next step in your professional lives. It's my absolute honor and privilege to welcome Ashley Bendixson live in the studio this evening. Ashley, thank you for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to spend some time with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Ian. Thank you for having me on your show.
No problem. So, and again, Ashley is no stranger to New Bedford, former Miss New Bedford, very involved in several local philanthropic organizations. But for those who may be tuning in for the first time and listening for the first time, would you mind just explaining to our audience kind of who Ashley Bendixson is and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a native of the area. I'm currently self-employed. I'm a professional speaker. I actually specialize in the student market, so I speak at a lot of area middle schools, high schools, and colleges on various issues that teens face and how they can develop leadership skills. And my other passion is for communications and public relations, so I do communications consulting for a lot of local businesses, nonprofits, startups, and CEOs. And I also do a whole bunch of job and career coaching for people because that's one of my passions as well, is helping people find their dream careers and advance professionally.
So, and before we get into kind of what we're going to talk about today, just for full disclosure, we have had some technical glitches here this evening, and no fault of anyone here. Josh Souza, our producer, is doing a great job as always. There was some miscommunication between the two systems in the Facebook and the live stream, so we're actually broadcasting to you today via YouTube Live, and as we broadcast through YouTube Live, as you see, the link has been posted on the New Bedford Guide page, so you can follow along through there. Again, your questions are still welcome, so you can feel free to do that through the comment section, or you can also ask your questions through YouTube as we're live as well. So Ashley, let's get right into it. The first step in getting that great job, obviously, we talk about college and career readiness, getting your certifications or getting your degree in whatever you're looking to study. So now, say you get that degree or you graduate from high school, what's the next step for an individual, whether just out of high school or a middle-aged adult or any age adult, to get that job, to get that resume ready, to get him or her ready for that next step in their career?
Yeah, well, you know, today, since everything is so technological and web-based, you know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, if you were looking for work, you could easily go into a place, shake someone's hand, ask for an application, or even just come in with a resume. Unfortunately now, almost every employer wants you to apply online first, send information via email. So focusing on your resume is the single most important tool that you have when you're starting your job search. And it can be very challenging because now that piece of paper, your resume, is essentially your first impression. That has replaced the old handshake and a smile where somebody might have taken to you if you walked into their place of employment. So absolutely focusing on having a strong resume that states your skill set and what you can bring to the table, so that you stand out from, you know, the dozens to possibly hundreds of people that are all applying online for that same job.
So resumes, when I was going through the ranks of college, I was always taught, keep that resume to one page. But yet I've seen high-level CEOs and presidents that have a 7-page resume. What really is appropriate for a size of a resume, in your opinion? Or does it depend on who you are and what you've done in your career?
I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely think 7 pages is far too long. I write people's resumes, and I've had to pare down the 7-page resume to 3, you know, amazingly. But I think that a 1-page resume is actually really rare nowadays. I think it's less common to see someone who has stayed with one employer for 15, 20, 25 years. A lot of people are staying with companies for, 5 to 7 years and moving on. So it's very difficult to write a 1-page resume these days. At the same time, I think that when you have several jobs and you show a pattern of elevation and promotion, it actually shows that you're ambitious and driven. So I think it's a good thing to show a lot on your resume. Mine is 2 to 3, but I have a whole section of community hats that I've held that could take up a whole page on its own. So I think it depends on each person, and I think it also depends on how you write it, what your resume looks like, how cleanly laid out things are, because even though it's 3 pages, if you design it well, it's easy to skim and get a feel for who you are.
So you mentioned it, and if, say, an individual is involved in several nonprofit boards and philanthropic organizations, and that's kind of bumping the resume to that 2nd or 3rd page, how do you determine which organization or which initiative you've been a part of gets the boot? That must be a tough call, because when you're working with a client, they might say, well, this was very important to me, I did this. Then you have to say, well, maybe it is important, but in the grand scheme of things, I think maybe this organization should be maybe a little higher on the preference. How do you determine that? Because that must be a very tough call to make.
It's funny, when I write people's resumes, I swear I spend more time just trying to make everything fit. I try never to, sacrifice any of that information on there. So it might be something as simple as taking out bullet points and explaining what you did, and just putting titles and organizations if that's the only room, your resume affords. So, and it can be industry specific too. So, maybe you're going after healthcare and you have several healthcare organizations that you've worked with as a volunteer, and then something totally random, maybe you just omit that. So I think it depends on what your goals are and what you think will be most relevant.
So resumes obviously are very important. That's that first thing that people look at when you apply for a job. But there are other pieces to the package as well. There are reference pages, there are cover letters. Let's talk about those a little bit, and the importance of cover letters and reference pages, and how do you think the best route is for an individual to kind of go forward with those? And obviously the services that you provide help coach individuals to really getting that to where it needs to be.
Sure. So when you're applying for a job, an employer obviously wants to see your skill set, your technical abilities, your education, your accomplishments in the professional worlds. But another big piece when you're looking to hire someone, you are hiring a person. So you want to see their personality. You want to know what their character is like, how they communicate, how they conduct themselves. So the cover letter allows you a chance to kind of be more personable, to introduce yourself, to explain things like, I'm willing to travel, or the reason there's 3 years off, it's because I was taking care of my sick parent. The cover letter allows you to be a person, be yourself, say, I've had a passion for nursing ever since I was a little girl and I had my first medical doctor's kit. That's the kind of stuff that an employer loves to read. It makes them remember you, and then your resume supports your abilities to fulfill the job.
So you think the cover letter is really that door-opening piece of apparatus that you need to get that interview and maybe make that good first impression?
I do. I think that if you write a compelling letter, you stand out from the rest. And I've heard this from a lot of people that I've helped, write their cover letters, and it's not so much me writing for them, but me being able to formulate who they are into a nice little short, concise story to present to a possible employer. So I do think a cover letter can absolutely captivate the attention of someone who's looking over your materials, and then if they're impressed by your resume as well, you're going to go into that, maybe pile, the interview pile, and take that next step.
So, and to your point, I have to tell you, with one of my jobs at the Chamber, as everyone knows, I'm the Business Development Director at the Southcoast Chamber, and we recently hired an individual to come in and do some sales and some retention, and she knocked her resume and her cover letter out of the park. But one thing she did that I thought was fantastic is that she sent the president of the chamber and myself an email after the interview thanking us for the interview, and she was the only one to do that. That's very important, I thought, and I kind of sat back and said, wow, I mean, she took the time to acknowledge us and thank us for taking time out of our schedules to interview her. I thought that was a good move.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's such a simple gesture, but it shows that they're interested. Because at the same time, the person applying for the job is also kind of gauging their interest in whether they want to work for you. So you might have a great interview with someone who's qualified and seems interested, but if they don't hear from them, you might still wonder, well, are they still looking at other places? Were they as happy now that they've met us? So I think you're right. When somebody sends an email and follows up, it shows like, no, they definitely want this job now that we've met with them. So I think that's great.
There's so much we can keep talking about, and we'll just keep rattling these off because obviously we started a little bit later today, so the time is a little bit shorter today, but we'll continue to plug away, and we don't have the luxury of Facebook Live questions right now because we are through YouTube. So you and I are just going to do this, and hopefully through our dialogue we would have answered any questions anyone would have had. I'm pretty sure we would, and at the end we will make sure that you give your contact information as well for individuals who want to take that next step with you professionally and look at the package. So dressing for success, dressing for that job fair, dressing for that interview. We've talked about it, what's appropriate, what's not for men and women. I've always said, men and women, look, I mean, this is the 21st century. I get it. Most of us have piercings and tattoos. That's cool. I mean, I'm down with it, even though I don't have any. I wimped out of getting any tattoos. But the reality is that a lot of people have them nowadays. The overall consensus is that when you go to the interview, cover them up.
Yeah, I think it depends. So I have tiny little tattoos on my wrists. They're hard to cover. But I think it's just a matter of looking professional. And everybody has their own style. What I consider a professional, stylish outfit might be different from someone else. I think it's important to stay authentic to who you are, but just elevate your attire. What would you wear to a job interview? You want to dress a little bit nicer than you would going somewhere else. It's things like making sure your clothes are ironed, making sure that your hair is in place, making sure that you don't have things that distract you too. So for example, like really distracting bracelets for women, or if you do your hair and you keep having to touch your hair and fidget with things, making sure you just wear something simple and professional. Also so that the interviewer isn't distracted by your outfit or trying to figure out what that tattoo says on your wrist, because those things can be distracting and you don't want them to stop listening to one of your important answers because they're distracted by what you look like.
Do you think as the years go on, some of that dynamic changes? Like, because now, when I was going through college, and even now, we're told, because we're considered millennials, so we're told by other generations that maybe in other positions of, CEOs, presidents, board chairs, you come through the ranks and you're taught, take out the piercing, hide the tattoos. Do you think as our generation continues to go up the ranks, you think that changes at all?
I do. I do think that a lot of things are changing. I think the nature of the office is changing. The work environment is changing. I don't think people expect you to wear a suit as much as they would have. Like I worked for the district attorney's office. I rarely ever wore a suit in court. I would just wear a nice dress. For a long time it was no open-toe shoes. Now they're allowing that kind of stuff for women,
Yeah.
And so I do think it's changing. And, even... you mentioned that I was Miss New Bedford. Even in the pageant world, for example, 10 years ago, you wanted to cover up your tattoos on stage, and I actually put makeup on my tattoos. And now there's girls that openly show their tattoos, and the judges don't, of all ages, don't seem to have a problem with it anymore.
Yeah, no, it certainly doesn't bother me at all, but obviously... that gets mentioned, and there are a lot of career counselors that still say these things, that cover them up, and I think discretion, right, tasteful discretion is the best way to go.
And I think that, again, I think it's unique to every place that you're applying, so it depends on what kind of job you're going for. If you're going to go apply for a job in the court system, maybe you wear a suit to your interview. If you're going to work as, the face of a health club, maybe you wear something a little bit more hip, and trendy. So I think it just depends on what you're applying for.
For men, let's start with men. What's appropriate to wear for a job interview, I guess? Sometimes I've seen them with a button-down and a sport coat, no tie. Sometimes I've seen them with a tie, no sport coat. I've seen it as informal as Sperry's on and khakis, which looks nice, don't get me wrong, but I guess, does it depend on where you're applying, or how does that play out?
I would say yes. I would say it depends on where. Personally, I think that when somebody dresses extremely well, you know that they put effort in. So they might look just as nice in a button-up and khakis and Sperry's, but if they put on a suit, you know that they actually put a little extra effort in for you, and I think that that speaks volumes.
So we do have one question that just came in, actually,
Sure.
through our YouTube channel, so I'll be happy
cool.
to read it, and then we'll get on to the next question.
Okay.
So the question is, how important is building a network on LinkedIn, and how can people be successful at using that platform? And it kind of segues into social media. So we weren't ready to get there yet, but we're going to go there now. So if you want to take that question, that'd be great.
Sure. So I love LinkedIn. I'm an avid LinkedIn user. How important do I feel it is? I don't think that it's critical. I don't think it's required, but I think it provides a wealth of opportunities and connections that can provide you with a possible job opening. So a lot of people don't use LinkedIn. A lot of people don't really understand how to use LinkedIn. It's certainly evolved over time. The simplest way to put it is LinkedIn is like Facebook, but for professionals. People want you to post things about business and career and jobs. It allows you to put your resume online, which I think is incredibly important, to have a digital footprint with your resume and your skill set. It also allows you to add things that you won't have on a resume. So, for example, I can put public speaker on my resume. On LinkedIn, I can put public speaker and actually include photos of me speaking, videos of me speaking. So you can actually refer people to your LinkedIn profile and show them much more content and media, or pictures of you receiving awards and stuff like that. But the beauty of LinkedIn is that you can connect with exactly who you hope to work for or meet other industry professionals. So when I was in college, I actually went on LinkedIn and started connecting with people from all different backgrounds and professions and just sending them messages and saying, hey, I'm curious to know, how did you get into your field? What do you like about it? And I made some amazing contacts from that who today have become clients of mine, have referred me to business. Some of them, back when I was in college, offered to give me a tour of where they worked. Yeah. So I think that if you put yourself up there and you have a strong presentation online, let's say you want to work for St. Luke's Hospital, search people that work at St. Luke's Hospital. Connect with them. Pick their brain. Who might I talk to over there? What's your advice if I get a job interview? You can just tap into so much information. So I think if you can build a network on there and leverage LinkedIn, I think there's more opportunities than people who don't use LinkedIn.
I agree, and I think LinkedIn kind of gets forgotten in the age of Instagram and Facebook. But speaking of Instagram and Facebook, those still can be powerful tools for professional outlets as well.
They absolutely can, and they can also hurt you too.
Yes.
The reality is employers will look you up on social media.
And I'm going to admit, I'll say this now, the president of the chamber and I were recently hiring for that position I was telling you about. Every applicant that came in, I was checking them out on Facebook. And a couple of them, there were things on there we didn't like. We'll leave it at that. So, we decided maybe not to go forward with this time with an interview with those individuals. But it's a shame because maybe someone there was qualified for the job. But because there were some language issues and some picture content issues on the Facebook page, we decided not to go forward.
Yeah, that, and sometimes people, if they're unhappy in their jobs, they'll start venting on Facebook, and a new employer doesn't want to put themselves in the position next time with that person. So yeah, I do it too. I recently put out an application for an intern, and I definitely looked at all of their social media accounts and tried to figure out who they were, what they are interested in, and some of them, their Facebook pages, their Instagram pages, actually painted an even better, stronger picture. I've always, I was introduced to social media, about 10 years ago when it was kind of just becoming a thing. And it was when I was Miss New Bedford.
I go back to MySpace.
Oh, yeah,
You too?
I had a MySpace.
Remember MySpace?
Yeah. MySpace was great.
Remember your top 8?
Yes, I do.
If you cracked someone's top 8, that was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And by the way, again, folks, we're with Ashley Bendixson, so for those who are just tuning in. But yeah, the top 8, you remember that on MySpace?
So funny.
And Tom, was that his name, Tom?
I think so.
I think it was. Tom? Yes, it was. Our producer Josh is saying yes, it was. But, I mean, MySpace was just straight craziness. There was no professionalism to that. But Facebook has that component where you can make pages, make events, and spruce up your... Yeah. And Instagram, obviously, is a whole different ballgame. Those are pictures, those are videos, not really elongated posts like Facebook. But they both have their place in society today, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we all have a personal brand online. And, you know, when social media first started, it really was a social thing. But now social media is, you know, undeniably interconnected with our professional lives, and people can learn everything they want about us. So it's not just a private social thing anymore. It's public information that an employer will look at.
That's great, and you know, going into LinkedIn is very important, and talking about social media is very important. How does someone go about? What would you give someone for a recommendation in having the maybe not the confidence right now to put themselves back out there? If maybe they feel as though they're in a job, and we would call that underemployed, maybe making minimum wage or around minimum wage. They have a mortgage or rent, they have a family, and they're looking for that next step. They're looking to earn more. They're looking for a more sense of maybe professional meaning in their lives. How do you coach those people into having the courage that might be middle-aged or even past middle-aged to say, yeah, get back out there, dust off that resume and blow off the dust, and I'll help you, and you still have plenty of life left, and get out there?
You know, I think people will always come up with a million justifications as to why they should wait. And I don't think the time is ever right. But if you're going to bed with this burning desire to do more and achieve more, or if you feel like there's more out there for you, I don't see why anyone should be waiting. And it's going to be scary. It might be difficult. It might be a major leap of faith. But I think that you just have to go for it. And if it doesn't work, well, then you just do something else. You know, I left my full-time job to be self-employed, and that was a major leap of faith. Was the time perfectly right? No. Was it scary? Yes. But I think if you want more, you just have to start taking the steps to get there. Even if it's just like, today I'm going to work on my resume. Even if it takes a few months to actually start sending it anywhere, just start taking little steps every day to put that package together and have the tools you need to step forward.
And Ashley, of course, would you mind giving your email or your contact information for individuals who might want more information about you and your services and how they could potentially become a client of yours? Yeah, the best way to contact me is through my website. It's ashleybendixson.com. I have a contact form on there. That's the best way to reach me, and that's for a multitude of things. I mean, I've been talking here today about a lot of my services, but I do write resumes and cover letters, and sometimes it's a huge relief for people because it can take a lot of time. It's very hard to write about yourself. That seems to be one of the biggest challenges that I hear from people that I assist. But once you invest in that resume, it saves you the 6 months of headaches of not getting calls because before your resume just didn't stand out at all. So that's one thing I do. I do interview preparation and coaching. I do public speaking coaching, depending on what kind of career advancement you're looking for. So yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anyone that wants to reach out to me. You certainly are a public relations guru. Now, obviously, for our listeners and our viewers today, you do have a special that you're offering, and our producer will put the link up after this program. You want to talk about that special that you're offering for viewers and listeners of this program only? Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier that one of the most important things is making sure that your resume is easy to read and easy to skim. Because when the employer prints out all the resumes that come through or they glance on their phone, they're just going to skim through and have a yes pile, a no pile. So you want your resume to look great. So I actually am giving away one of my resume templates, which is, it's formatted, it's professionally designed, so anyone can go and download it and just fill their contact information in, fill in their job information, their work experience, and I will guarantee you that even if your content isn't amazing, the design of this resume will make it stand out better. So you can get that at ashleybendixson.com/
free resume. And the template is right there for you to download instantly. And I will also enter everybody in to win a consulting session with me to go over their resume, their paperwork, their interview strategy, their LinkedIn strategy. So yeah, so go to that, ashleybendixon.com/free resume, and you can get a free resume template right there, which I normally sell. So that's my gift to New Bedford Guide viewers.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Ashley. What else would you like to share with us and our viewers and listeners today, kind of about, again, as I said during the open, our goal is to connect you, all of you out there in viewing and listening land who might be down in the dumps, unemployed, underemployed, looking to develop a little more professionally and get back out in the workforce. And our goal is to connect you with people like Ashley, professional development and career counselors and economic development practitioners and workforce development professionals. So, Ashley, what else would you like to put out there for our individuals to maybe take home tonight? And the reality is that I'm sure there's something we didn't cover, but we're trying our best in the time that we have to do it. And I think we've done a pretty good job talking, at least at a 30,000-foot view of resumes, LinkedIn, dressing for success. But I'm sure there's some other tidbits that you might want to share with our viewers and listeners this evening.
Yeah, I think that one of the most frustrating and overwhelming sentiments of a person who is trying to figure out their next career move is really figuring out what they want to do, what they enjoy, what they're good at. A lot of people just don't have direction. They say, I want something more, but I just don't know what that is. I don't even really know what I'm good at, what I enjoy doing. I think it's important to take some solo time to go sit somewhere and write and think about what it is that you love, even if it's something broad as helping people or community initiatives. Because going back, I'll just share a personal story real quick. Going back about 12 years ago, I was a new survivor of domestic violence. I had nowhere to live. I had not a penny in my pocket. I was a college dropout at the time. I went back years later, but I wasn't in school. I didn't have a job. And I knew that I needed something for myself. And it started with small steps of, I want to help people. I started volunteering. You know, I want to be self-employed someday. I got my real estate license. You figure out what the end goal is, what you love, what you feel is out there for you, and you just start taking baby steps to get there. So take the time to really figure it out, you know, what it is, what you want. Connect with those people. I started networking just to meet other, you know, strong women in the community because I knew I wanted to work with women. I knew I wanted to do domestic violence advocacy, so I volunteered at the women's shelter. You just have to figure out what you want and start taking the steps to get there.
I will tell you, I am a big-time supporter of the battered women's shelter, without a doubt, here in our community, and obviously for the cause, but selfishly, every Christmas time, I don't know how to wrap Christmas gifts. So at the North Dartmouth Mall, they'll wrap it for me, and it's a donation, and they wrap it so beautifully. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Ashley, before I let you go, I'm going to put you to work. Okay? We have live reads. Would you want to read one of these?
I am an excellent reader.
I know you are. And we're going to show our viewers and listeners how great you really are.
Wonderful.
So we have two employers who are hiring right now. They're hiring today.
Sure.
Which one do you want? Do you want Qdoba or Care One?
Either one.
I'll give you the Care One. There you go.
All right.
So if you wouldn't mind giving them a plug, they would appreciate it.
Excellent. All right. Care One is a great organization. I know a few people that work here. So Care One is hiring full-time CNAs and offering a $1,000 sign-on bonus. The Care One New Bedford mission is to define excellence within the healthcare community. They are dedicated to maximizing patient outcomes. They treat residents, their families, and each other with respect, dignity, and compassion. Through a collaborative and consultative approach, they strive to provide a framework of strength and stability for their centers and communities. Right now, they're hiring for CNA positions with offering competitive wages, weekend and overnight differential, comprehensive health care benefits, a 401k retirement plan, paid time off, opportunities to advance very important. Grow your career and more. They also offer free training if you need it at the Coastal Career Academy. Again, $1,000 sign-on bonus for full-time CNAs if you're already certified. And the shifts that they have available are 3 to 11 and 11 to 7. So if you're interested, you can check them out online. That's Care One. You can also call 508-996-4600.
And the reason why I did that, folks, because I wanted you all to see how great Ashley is with those live reads. But I'm going to read mine now, and I'll try to dust off the old windpipes from when I went to broadcasting school. And it pays off, you know, in politics and when I'm on council and all that. But let's give it a shot. And we read this last week, but it's still a featured job here on New Bedford Guide, and we'll do it again. So Qdoba is now hiring for multiple positions at their new Southcoast Marketplace location. You may recall the new Southcoast Marketplace is at 500 William Canning Boulevard in Fall River, the former Harbor Mall. So looking for a change or a new career, Qdoba is now hiring for the following positions for their brand new location in Fall River. They're looking for a restaurant team leader, they're looking for restaurant cooks, and team members. So if you're looking to apply for any of these jobs, and again, the location will be opening in February, you can go to www.careers.jackintheboxinc, so INC, /Qdoba. Or you could just show up to the 500 William Canning Boulevard location, introduce yourself, bring that resume, bring that cover letter that Ashley talked about, and they would love to talk to you. Again, the minimum requirement is that you do need to have at least a GED or a high school diploma. So make sure you check out Qdoba and Care One for all your hiring needs. Well, it's been a great show today, Ashley, and I appreciate you coming on. Again, Ashley Bendixson was our guest today, talking about all things resumes, cover letters, professional development. Before we sign off, one last time, if you wouldn't mind giving your email out, that way if individuals want to contact you, they can.
Sure, you can email me at ashleybendixon@gmail.com. My website, where it lists all of my services, is ashleybendixon.com. And if you want a free resume template, my gift to you, you can visit ashleybendixon.com/free resume.
Sounds good. Ashley, always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Ian.
And keep doing the great work that you've been doing, and I know you will.
You too.
So again, for our producer, Josh Souza, for our guest and star of the show, Ashley Bendixson, I'm Ian Abreu. Make sure you stay tuned at 7 o'clock. We will have the LBGTQ Southcoast Show with our friends, so make sure you tune back into New Bedford Guide for that at 7 p.m. sharp. For all of us here in the New Bedford Guide studios, so long, everybody.